A friend of mine has recently returned to Cyberpunk 2077 after not playing for quite some time. She hasn't played Phantom Liberty DLC, for example, and I don't think she's got much time played on 2.0. And she was looking for advice on what character to play, on the build she was going to choose, and she was basically struggling between two thoughts. On the one hand, she fancied a reflex cool build so she could shoot and slice people up with swords because she was in the mood for a bit of violence, and who can blame her? This is a great game for that sort of play. But she was also saying that the pure Netrunner build was calling to her. And so, an answer to the question, should you do reflex cool or Netrunner? My answer is, why not both? Because it's absolutely possible to have a reflex cool Netrunner. This character, which is my current favourite way to play, is pretty much that. Maybe not quite pure Netrunner, but as you can see, I've got 20 reflexes, 20 cool, 15 intelligence, 15 tech, and I've got 5 points left that I think I'm going to dump into body, just so that I've got 9 body, and with gorilla arms that will be 15 for the body checks. I could put them into intelligence if I wanted and go full on Netrunner. I just don't think I'm going to with this character. But you absolutely can. You could have a reflex cool Netrunner, and indeed, if I was going to play a pure Netrunner, I would still start by pumping points into reflexes. Yes, no matter what character I play now, I tend to pump reflexes straight away, immediately, first stat. It doesn't matter if it's a Netrunner, it doesn't matter if it's a gorilla arms punch him in the face character, a tech build, it doesn't matter. A stealth build, I still put points into reflexes because reflexes is hands down the best stat in the game at the moment, because it's the stat that controls access to the mobility perks, and mobility is king in this game. You don't have to have a mobility build to play this game. There are plenty of ways to build that are super powerful and will feel fulfilling. But a mobility build is absolutely one of the easiest ways to play because it's powerful, versatile, and this is very important, the build starts to work almost immediately. Mobility builds are so much fun because you do not have to wait until like level 30 or 35 before feeling like you are an apex predator hunting their prey. With a reflex build, you can get there by about level 10, level 15 definitely. By the time you get to level 15, you will feel pretty damn smug about the way you end up killing your enemies. You won't be super powerful at level 15, but you'll be powerful enough to feel confident going into an awful lot of fights, and indeed in dealing with stealth. Mobility builds look like they're there for, very, very good acrobatic combat, but they're also great for stealth missions. A lot of stealth can be done very, very quickly and quite safely, more safely than just crawling around the floor. If you can get up high, zip from one place to another without being seen, you can finish those stealth missions in record time, and you feel pretty good about doing it as well. You feel badass. And again, I will remind you, you can get this level of mobility by level 10. You won't have the infinite stamina, but you will still have the ability to pick the moment you engage with your enemy, where you engage with them, and more importantly, you will be able to get out of a bind very, very easily. And that sort of battlefield control is massive. All the way through the game, actually, that is a massive thing. Now, yes, this means you can't invest in, say, intelligence straight away. But here's the thing. If you got to level 10 and had put everything into intelligence and you'd unlocked all of these perks, that's great. You're noticeably better at hacking. Although, unfortunately, because in the early levels you don't get a lot of spare or extra perks, you actually have too many perks to take. So this is one of these things that even then you won't have a lot of these. You will also not have very good gear. The cyber deck you're using is probably tier 1. Maybe, you'll get tier 2 if you've got the components to upgrade it. But the hacks you're getting are not that good either. So if you are going to be doing pure net running, you're going to be doing it slowly, taking your time, trying to sneak around, trying to distract people and get them crushed by stuff, or take them out with stealth. So you're going to be using, standard cool techniques of going up behind someone and breaking their neck, or, setting an explosion off. But here's what I'm going to tell you. There's a whole bunch of situations where that's almost not an option. Loads of the assaults. But even in the cases where it is an option, you're going to screw up a few times. You just are. Anyone who's ever played a Netrunner will tell you this. There are going to be moments when you either get spotted, the trace goes through, you run out of RAM earlier than you thought, and you've still got a lot of enemies left, and all of a sudden they're moving in on your location. And you're kind of backed into a corner half the time, you're desperately throwing grenades, huffing meds, shooting wildly with assault weapons you're not great at, and shotguns, and all the while staring at the RAM, screaming, please, please regenerate. Whereas if you've gone the reflex route, sure, in those early stages, your hacks are not going to be quite so good, but when the crapola hits the fan, you will be able to get out of there, relocate, take a breather, and choose when to re-engage and how to re-engage. And that makes such a difference. And again, let's say you just put 9 points into reflexes, level 10, you've got this mobility, and then you switch to intelligence and you put the next 9 points. Level 18, you will have unlocked all of these perks. You will have access to them. You're probably a lot closer to getting better hacks and a better deck, and you're probably better able to do the things you really want to do. But you also have that security, that knowledge that you can get out of there if it all goes sideways, which will give you more confidence. You will be more willing to try some interesting hack combinations and see what happens, thinking to yourself, all right, if it doesn't go great, I'm just going to go over there on that spot where they can't get to me and then peek over and hack them again. It really is just one of those things where a lot of builds don't work until later on. The mobility build, it works as well at level 15 once you get, infinite stamina. It works as well then as it does at level 60. Again, please don't think to yourself that, oh, I've got this, I can now beat everything in the game. You still can't, but you'll be able to successfully run away from it. And okay, so the required perks for this sort of build, the mobility build, obviously the first one you're going to need is Slippery. You take this at level 2 when you get your first perk and your first attribute point. I'm assuming you start off with reflexes 6. You will now have 7 reflexes and 1 perk. You put it here, Slippery. The faster you move, the more difficult for enemies to shoot you. Effect increases when dashing, dodging, sliding, sprinting, and bolting. I.e., you can move around and you will be damned hard to hit. This is very useful. In the next 2 levels, you will not unlock anything. This will still be locked because your reflexes will not be high enough. You can spend the perks on these things if you want, or somewhere else. You can always refund the perks now and it doesn't cost you anything. Once you get to level 4, you will have 9 reflexes. You can put 2 points into dash. This gives you the initial dash. It's relatively obvious what that does. You do want to add can't touch this as well. This gives 100% mitigation chance when you dash. Just in case you don't remember, mitigation basically reduces the damage you take by 50% by default if it activates. And with a 100% chance of activating, this means anytime you're dashing, you will take half damage by default. We're going to increase that mitigation strength as well. That is going to be important. This allows you to sort of dash out of trouble while taking a little less damage. Very, very useful, but not massively powerful at this stage. Then you're going to keep leveling up all the way to level 10, where you will have got reflexes 15, and you should at this point have 6 more perks. 3 into air dash. Obviously, does what it says on the tin. It allows you to dash in the air. Ridiculously useful. You pair it up with aerodynamic, plus 30% mitigation strength in midair. Remember that? You are now reducing all damage that you take by 80% when you dash in the air. Yeah, so you're harder to hit, way harder to hit, and when you do get hit, you take way less damage. Finally, you take Aerial Acrobat to improve mid-air maneuverability. This is less important if all you're trying to do is escape, but honestly, I've never played without it. So improved mid-air maneuverability is just really nice. And that's it. Those are the essentials. And as you can see, you can get this by level 10 and you would still have one perk left to spend somewhere else as far as I know. And at this point, as long as you've got stamina, you will be able to get out of any sticky situation. You'll also be able to get yourself into battle, which is, again, very useful. Control of the battlefield. Choose when to attack, who to attack, and where to attack them. Yeah, very useful. At this point, if you want, you can switch and start working on your intelligence and your hacks. I have to say, myself, I would keep going for another 5 levels. Level 15, I would get reflexes 20. I'd have 5 more perks, but I only need 1 for Tailwind. Tailwind basically makes air dashes not cost stamina. But not only that, it gives you 25 stamina when you air dash and when you double jump. This basically means anytime you are in trouble, you can just dash around the battlefield and never run out of stamina. You can just keep running circles around everyone, mocking them. It's kind of fun sometimes. It also means that if you've run out of stamina when you're hitting them with your katana, you can just double jump, dash to the other side of them, and then dash back in, now with full stamina again, slashing away. It really is a very, very useful one. So if you're going blades, you definitely want this. But honestly, again, I'd use it for any and all of my builds. And at this point, I would just recommend you go with your gut. Try what you think is going to work for you. I mean, basically you'll be level 10 or level 15, depending on how far you've pumped into reflexes, and you might think to yourself, right, I want to now work on my hacks and do that. Or maybe you're just thinking, I want to go blades. You might want to try a Sandevistan or a Berserker before you make the decision. See if you like those. I personally prefer the Cyber deck with all of my builds, whether it's melee, shooting, stealth, it doesn't matter. I think Cyber deck is much more powerful, much more versatile. The Berserker is powerful, especially against bosses, but it's just bloody annoying. It's the sound effect. There's probably a mod that gets rid of it. The Sandevistan's cool. It is cool and quite versatile. And if you're doing a pure shooting build, that's the way to go. If you're thinking blades, though, don't automatically think you have to go Sandevistan or Berserk. You could do blades and use hacks, control hacks, cripple people's movement, glitch their weapons. It also helps in stealth. I mean, it really is. You don't need to make the decision straight away. Whatever's working for you, just lean into it. If you're enjoying it, lean into it. That is my general advice. One other perk that's kind of useful, and I tend to always take it, at least when I'm doing the mobility build, is Dwarf Head. You do need to unlock it with Painkiller. You will need 4 body. Painkiller gives you health regen in combat, which is okay, but I barely notice it. However, Dwarf Head, that gives you 100% mitigation for 2 seconds when you take a health item or use the blood pump cyberware. This can be a lifesaver because obviously you tend to take health items when you're in trouble. This gives you 100% mitigation for 2 seconds, and seeing as this tends to be a mitigation build, that's actually really, really useful. I also love Fury Road because I love my cars, but hey, that's up to you. What I will warn you against is dumping points into technical ability just because you want more cyberware. It is true, this particular tree will grant you the ability to have more cyberware, although not as much as you might think, and it does make the cyberware better, although not by so much that it makes a huge difference at the start of the game. The reason for that is simple. For the first, 10, 20, maybe even 30 levels, you don't have all of these slots filled anyway. You just don't have the cyberware capacity. And honestly, the cyberware's not that good at the start. It's good. Certain pieces are great. I'll talk about those. But honestly, it's more of an end game thing. So this is one of the stats I tend to fill once I'm at, I don't know, level 30, 35. Once I've got to the point where I've got the cyberware capacity, the cyberware I'm looking at is now tier 4 and making a bigger difference. That's when I start investing here. It's nice, it's just not as useful as some of these other areas, at least not with the way I play. For cyberware, there really are only a few pieces that you absolutely need. The essential one is reinforced tendons. It allows you to double jump, which aids in your maneuverability, your ability to escape, but it also activates tailwind to recover stamina. There is another option, fortified ankles. Some people like it because it allows you to jump higher than the double jump, and for a blunt weapon build, that does slightly more damage when you slam down and do the quake attack. But honestly, even then, for me, it's not worth it. It doesn't activate tailwind the way reinforced tendons do. This is just, it makes you so much more mobile and again, recover stamina so much quicker. To me, this is absolutely essential. I would also add neofiber and spring joints. At the early tiers, these are not too powerful, but once you get to tier 5, definitely worth it. This one adds 11% mitigation chance and 11% mitigation strength. It's more the mitigation strength I'm going for, but believe it or not, even that little 11% chance does help. I'll show you why in a second. This one adds 19% mitigation strength. It doesn't add a lot of armor, but the two of these together add 30% mitigation strength. On top of the default 50, that makes it 80, even when stood stock still. When I'm flying through the air, I'm at 90%. This makes me very survivable, in spite of the fact that my armor's not that good. As long as my mitigation is kicking in, I am going to be extremely hard to kill. Two other things worthy of note, Kerenzikov. If you are using an aimed weapon, whether it's a knife, a pistol, etc., it's worth taking Kerenzikov, because when you slide, when you dash and you aim, you slow down time for about 3.75 seconds. It's less at the lower tiers. This makes it a lot easier to aim, but once it's over, if you're using Defensikov, it also activates 90% mitigation chance for 4 seconds. 100 with that. This means I can dash around and then I can pull out a knife, dash sideways, activate the slowdown time, nail someone in the head. Then when that ends, I've got 4 seconds with 100% mitigation where I don't even need to double jump away to get that, and I can finish off someone else, and then I can go and escape. Kind of useful in a throwing knife or a pistol build or that sort of thing, but not essential for, say, a melee build. There are probably better options there. Other than that, I recommend you try out all the cyberware. It's changed in 2.0. There's a load of cool stuff. Try it all. Have a go. Have some fun. There's a load of iconic stuff. It requires a lot of cyberware capacity. It's probably not worth the cost, to be honest. You can see I'm not using any iconics. But you know what? You kind of need to try it all, don't you? And in fact, that might be a good reason to save enough points to max out technical ability to 20, because Edgerunner is the final perk in this particular tree, and this allows you to expand your cyberware capacity by 50 points. Costs you a little health, but once you neutralize an enemy with this installed, there is a tiny chance you will go into a fury state. You will get more damage, more crit chance, and more crit damage. Yeah. It's kind of like mini cyber psycho mode. It's kind of fun. It is, especially if you're in a violent mood. So yeah, and it gives you 50 more cyberware capacity, so you can try a few of those out. There's quite a few decent ones, but I'm going to let you find that out for yourself. But that's basically it. I would highly recommend you just give in to that violent urge to play reflex cool, but also use hacks as well. See how much you're enjoying the Netrunner build, and then decide when you get to like level 30 or 40, decide if you really want to go full on pure Netrunner, a Netrunner who can just double jump to wherever they want to and stay completely out of sight, or whether you want to embrace the violence and just go more into the blades, etc. You could start playing this game and not make that decision until you get to almost the end game. You've seen my character. My character could go in any direction. I could make her a full Netrunner right now, or I could just go in full-on cyber psycho. It really, really is up to you when you get there. By the time you get there, you'll know what you want to do. Other than that, just play it, rekindle that love for it, and please play Phantom Liberty so I can talk to you about that DLC, because it's probably the greatest DLC ever made, and that's saying something. That is saying something. It is amazing. The new gameplay is so good. You'll almost certainly get hooked again. And you'll probably want to play lots of other builds, and you should. There's lots of different endings now, for the DLC at least, and there's a new ending for the main game. There's a bunch of new cars as well. We haven't even talked about the cars. There's so many new cars, and you can get them all now. You can afford every car. You can get all the apartments. Yeah? You can only have a cat in one of them, unfortunately, which is a shame, because it's not the best apartment. You get a cat. You also get a guitar in one of them. Play it, is what I'm saying. Just play it. Get over this build, whatever it is, indecision. Go with your gut. Reflex. Cool. Bit of net running. Go violent. Go and experience Night City again, so I can talk to you about the bloody DLC.